Hello, friends! The kind of love we dream of and pray for is the one that sticks with us and stands by us through the odds. Not everyone gets to find it, but some are blessed to. What greater joy in life is there than to walk down the aisle to be wedded to that one special person who is all of this and more? In the case of Jackie Goncher, the idea of walking down the aisle would have seemed a bit of irony, if not for an unexpected turn of events. Love, they say, conquers all. In this story, it rings true. The story of 25-year-old Jackie Goncher is honestly the stuff of fairy tales, reminding us yet again of the power of true love. To understand what happened on her wedding day, we must first look at the events that led up to it. Young Jackie was a beautiful, passionate, and talented athlete. However, at the age of 17, Jackie had an unfortunate swimming accident that resulted in an injury to her spinal cord. She ended up paralyzed from her neck down. After tests and treatments, Jackie and her parents were frankly told by the doctors that she would most likely never walk again. One can only imagine how devastating this news must have been to the young and active teenager, whose dreams as an athlete seemed to shatter. Still, strong-willed as she was, she refused to give up. More driven and determined than ever, she put so much into beating the odds that seemed stacked against her. This raised her hopes, and the hopes of her family that she would eventually recover and regain the use of her legs. Sadly, their expectations were not met for the next 8 years. Years after the swimming accident, Jackie remained mostly reliant on her wheelchair. She found the first years of therapy extremely hard, hating to realize how incapable she was of doing even the smallest of exercises. Would she ever be able to do the things she loved? Being an athlete before the accident, she found the hardest part of those 8 years to be that she couldn't get her workouts done. The first time she went to the gym, she got on a stationary bike. Trying her hardest to push, her legs simply were not able to push it fast enough, and eventually the machine would turn off. Jackie recalls getting so upset that she simply put her head down on the machine and started to cry. She would return to the gym, straining herself as much as she could, but would be unable to get her body to cooperate. She would try over and over to do her workouts, but would fail as many times as she tried. As you might expect, this made her very frustrated. Even worse, she recalls that it made her disgusted with herself. Eventually, she decided not to go back. That is, until Andi Goncher. 8 years after the accident, 8 years of being restricted to and reliant on her wheelchair, Jackie was engaged to Andi Goncher. With a love stronger than her challenge, their wedding was set a year from then. However, even though Andi loved Jackie with or without the wheelchair, as he had proven, Jackie wanted more. Like many other women, she thought about her wedding day in detail, dreaming about her dress, the venue, the colors, the flowers, the guests, the vows, and that special walk down the aisle. A wheelchair had no part in her dreams. She thought about how much attention would naturally be on the bride on her wedding day, and she knew that on that day of all days, she wanted to feel beautiful. Admittedly, she knew she could pull this off in her wheelchair, but she had a more ambitious target in mind. This pushed Jackie to reflect on her earlier decision, deciding on not wanting to be defined by her wheelchair on her wedding day. She finally found the much-needed strength and incentive to return to the gym. For the entire year leading up to her wedding day, she set her eyes on a single goal: to be able to stand and walk at her wedding. Therapy, determination, and love make a strong mix for a miracle. Putting in much work, Jackie slowly made progress, and in just 6 months, Jackie was able to stand, astonishing her doctors. This encouraged Jackie more than ever that just maybe her wish might come true. Even though it was hard and sometimes frustrating, she was more determined to accomplish her goal. Bit by bit, stage by stage, over the next 12 months, she began to see results. Until finally, the D-Day arrived, and she was ready. Getting dressed in a beautiful blush gown with her mermaid green hair, Jackie looked like a princess that stepped right out of a fairy tale. She truly got her wish of looking beautiful on her wedding day. Soon enough, the venue was set, the guests were seated, and it was time for the bride's walk down the aisle. Deciding on taking full advantage of the element of surprise, Jackie approached the ceremony in her wheelchair, with her mom and grandfather on each side. This was expected by almost everyone present. Who didn't know? They were in for the most exciting plot twist. And then just before she headed down the aisle, she slowly stood up and started walking. Friends and family gathered around were stunned. Her walk down the aisle could go down in history as the world's most emotional moment. Almost everyone was crying, most of all the groom. Andy Goncher, who was already aware of the surprise, was overwhelmed by emotions and couldn't hold back his tears. Jackie was herself quite emotional, considering it miraculous that she was walking. It was truly a beautiful moment. On her feet, Jackie stood beside her groom and said her vows. Afterward, she wrapped her hands around his neck, and they quite literally had their very first dance ever. Yes, not even once before had they had the chance to dance together. Hopefully, this would be the first of many, many dances to come. The beautiful moment was expertly captured in watercolor by a professional artist, Kuhn, who was hired by the bride's mother. The wedding itself was nothing short of spectacular. Friends and family had an amazing time, celebrating the love between these two lovebirds, Jackie and Andy. Their love is more than obvious for anyone to see and feel, almost like it has a life of its own, pulsing between them. Although it was quite an emotional experience for all present, the wedding was full of many smiles and laughter. It is easy to take for granted how special and miraculous this experience is. Just 1 year before, Jackie was unable to stay standing for over 30 minutes as a result of her low blood pressure. Her wedding day was made for miracles, as she stood all through the entire wedding ceremony, which lasted up to 45 minutes. Jackie was also able to stay standing through most of the 5-hour-long reception, holding onto her husband almost the entire time and relying on him as what she calls her cane. Who says dreams don't come true? Who says wishes don't become reality? Jackie certainly got her wish for her wedding day, and she remains committed to maintaining the progress streak she has had over the year before the wedding in hopes that one day she would live a life free of her wheelchair. What are your thoughts on Jackie and Andy Goncher's story? Let us know in the comments right below. Before going anywhere, make sure to hit that subscribe button and smash the bell icon to never miss a good story again. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time.